Welcome, everybody, to the 2022 International Fuel Ethanol Workshop and Expo podcast series. My name is Tim Ports, Program Director here at BBI International. We're joined this morning by Michael Humphrey, Technical Services Manager at Lallemand Biofuels and Distilled Spirits. Michael is giving a presentation at 1:30 on Wednesday, June 15th. In a panel entitled Why Exploring New Frontiers in Fermentation is a Vital Part of Any Plant's Operational Strategy. Michael's presentation, The Importance and Implications of Pilot-Scale Fermentations in the Fuel Ethanol Industry. Michael, welcome to the discussion.
Thank you very much.
Happy to have you here. You know, Michael, I was looking at your abstract in preparation for this discussion, and the first thing that really jumped out to me, your abstract explains that industrial fermentations happen in a number of industries apart from fuel ethanol production, of course, including the production of yogurt, breweries, vinegar, kombucha, pharmaceutical fermentations, and that in those instances, pilot scale fermentations are very common. This is a common practice in those categories, yet it's less common in fuel ethanol production. And my first question for you is, why do you suppose that is? Why is the ethanol industry not adopting the benefit of pilot scale fermentations as much?
Yeah, Tim, I think part of that question has to do with just the capital expense of producing and commissioning a pilot scale fermentation system. At the brewery level, you know, you may have a brewery that's a 20 or 30 barrel brewery, but they may use a smaller 1 barrel system to test out recipes before they bring that next great brew to the market. So I think the capital expense is kind of one of the roadblocks that we see. The other is, I believe that we lean heavily on our labs. And we all have these great laboratories that work for us and work to put out the next level of great yeast strains or products. And I think sometimes it's in hindsight that we're just going to skip that pilot scale process and move straight from the laboratory to industrial scale. But ultimately, when you do that, you know, you miss some things. You know, is your technology development, has that panned out? You know, is your standardization of your formula set? Have you done any product improvement studies before you're bringing this new product to the market? Are you efficient in the production of this new strain or whatnot? So there's a lot of questions that could be answered with pilot scale technology, and I think those are the two main drivers. One, the capital expenditure, and two, we lean heavily on our laboratories, which we all have great laboratories.
And this is where Lallemand's mobile application process system comes into the mix to answer that question and offer that the capabilities or the visibility that these pilot scale fermentations can bring to producers while keeping the capital piece in check, if you will. Is that right? Is that really what the MAP system is all about?
Yeah, that's a fair assumption. The MAP system is about being able to utilize, you know, a plant's native environment to test future products. And so we do take that capital expenditure piece away from the plants per se in some fashion. So in that being said, we are able to move MAPs from one location to the next, test with that plant's solids, temperature, organics, stressors, utilize the back set that they're running, and then really focus on R&D in a sense too, to answer valuable questions that we have. You know, is this a scalable organism? Do we have adequate sale mass? Do we flocculate too much? Are we too anaerobic? You know, all of these questions can be answered by taking MAPs to a location and running in that native environment. I would say though that we did launch MAPs during a pandemic, so it has been stationary, but that is soon to change.
Got it. So give me a sense of if a producer called tomorrow and wanted to engage the MAP system and bring that into their organization. Talk a little bit about what a MAPS deployment looks like, and how long is the MAPS deployment at a location, and how long is the lab team at the ethanol plant working with the Lallemand team and the MAPS system?
Sure. So if a plant wanted to utilize MAPS, we would obviously work out a strategy to bring MAPS to that location, which would involve some engineering and being able to get the mash lines ready and the CIP lines and all of those things that are just already hard piped in the plant accessible for MAPS. Once all of that is set up, a MAPS deployment typically runs as long as the deployment for a typical firm. So if you're running a 54-hour fermentation, that would be the total time for a MAPS deployment, plus or minus a day in setting up, propagating, dropping, and stuff like that. And we utilize our own laboratory equipment generally at MAPS. So we work in concert with the laboratory to make sure, one, we baseline off of their incumbent strain that they're running, and we're matching the data that we see. And then we can therefore compare results once we receive them from the HPLC to the plant and show the plant any differences that we may be seeing if we're testing a new strain. So typically a MAPS deployment, quote unquote, if we're doing what we call a run, would last a week. But as far as bringing MAPS to a location, obviously there's some challenges involved and some issues that need to be discussed in order to bring MAPS there and have it fully operational and functional.
Understood. And the MAP system is obviously designed to do a number of things, but what would you say is the conventional or most normal or the situation whereby producers should consider MAPS if they're trying to solve a particular problem or answer a particular question? What is that sort of bread and butter challenge, opportunity that MAPS really has been designed to help producers solve?
Well, I don't know if it's a singular design focus, but in bringing MAPS to a new facility, I would hedge to say product improvement studies would be my number one thing I would say that MAPS could help improve how you run a product. So, bringing MAPS in, we would be able to run your product and then change some conditions in MAPS as well, even if your plant's not experiencing them at that time, and run some studies and see how the yeast is performing at that time. Ideally, that would be with one of our strains that LBDS has designed, and we can test that versus your incumbent strain. But I would really say product improvement.
Appreciate it. Once again, Michael Humphrey will be giving a presentation, The Importance and Implications of Pilot Scale Fermentations in the Ethanol Industry, at 1:30 Wednesday, June 15th. We welcome everybody who wants to consider the upside and benefit of pilot scale fermentation in their location, their facility, bring those positive contributions to their operation. Come have a listen to what Michael's got to say. Michael, looking forward to that presentation once we're on location in Minneapolis. Thanks again for joining the International Fuel Ethanol Workshop and Expo podcast series. Michael, thanks for taking some time out of your day to answer our questions. Look forward to seeing you in Minneapolis.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tim, for having me.